In the quaint neighborhood of Maplewood, Karen was well known for her grand house, with its towering columns and manicured gardens. She took immense pride in her home and often judged others based on their property. One particular target of her disdain was her neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. Mrs. Jenkins lived in a cozy little cottage that was painted a cheerful yellow but lacked the lavishness that Karen cherished. Karen would often gather with friends over tea, and without fail, she would bring up Mrs. Jenkins' home. "That place really drags down property values," she would scoff, shaking her head in disapproval. Her friends nodded along, laughing at her comments, reinforcing Karen's belief that social status was tied to the size and appearance of their homes. As summer days turned into crisp autumn evenings, Karen's obsession grew. She believed that if she could just get enough people to agree with her about Mrs. Jenkins' house, it might somehow elevate her own standing even higher in the community. The mocking became more frequent, with each conversation filled with snide remarks about how a modest dump like Jenkins' home didn't belong in their upscale neighborhood. Little did she know that this behavior would come back to haunt her. As she prepared to sell her own house, confident it would fetch a high price due to its apparent grandeur, she remained blissfully unaware of the twist of fate that awaited, and how her judgments would soon turn into a lesson in humility. Mrs. Jenkins' cottage stood out in its own lovely way, a delightful contrast to the grandeur of Karen's mansion. Nestled beneath a canopy of flowering trees, the little yellow house had that inviting charm which made it feel like home. Its cheerful facade was adorned with white shutters and a picket fence, giving it a storybook quality that warmed the hearts of those who passed by. The garden surrounding the cottage was a burst of color, filled with vibrant flowers and herbs that Mrs. Jenkins tended to each morning. Daisies, marigolds, and lavender danced gently in the breeze, attracting butterflies and bees that added life to the already cheerful scene. Unlike Karen's meticulously manicured lawns and ornamental hedges, this garden felt natural and welcoming, an expression of Mrs. Jenkins' love for nature. Inside, Mrs. Jenkins had decorated her home with family memories, photographs on the walls, handmade crafts on shelves, and cozy furniture that invited friends in for tea and laughter. Though small compared to Karen's sprawling estate, it radiated warmth and comfort. Each room told a story, reflecting the personality of its owner rather than striving for status or approval. While Karen scoffed at the simplicity of Mrs. Jenkins' home, many neighbors appreciated its charm and character. They admired how Mrs. Jenkins created beauty without needing extravagant features or grand architecture. This contrast only deepened Karen's disdain but also highlighted what true value in a home could mean: love, kindness, and community spirit, qualities that were often overlooked by those who judged by appearances alone. As the seasons changed in Maplewood, so did Karen's relentless comments about Mrs. Jenkins' home. Whenever the opportunity arose, she would gather with friends in her lavish living room, where the chandeliers sparkled overhead, and launch into her familiar tirade. "Honestly, how does that little cottage even belong in our neighborhood?" she would exclaim with a dramatic wave of her hand. Laughter would ensue as her friends echoed her sentiments, feeding Karen's ego. At neighborhood gatherings, Karen made it a point to steer conversations toward property values. "I'm just worried that Mrs. Jenkins' place is going to drag down our property values," she'd say with a smirk, as if she were doing everyone a favor by speaking out. Her friends nodded in agreement, some rolling their eyes at the thought of such a modest dump being part of their community. Karen's mockery didn't stop there. She would often point out the mismatched garden gnomes or the peeling paint on Mrs. Jenkins' fence. "How can you expect people to pay top dollar for homes here when they have to look at that?" she would scoff, oblivious to how harsh and judgmental she sounded. The more Karen ridiculed Mrs. Jenkins, the more convinced she became that her own house was not only better but deserved admiration from all around. In her eyes, status was everything, and anyone who didn't meet her standards was fair game for criticism. Little did she know that those very words would soon come back to haunt her in ways she never expected. As time went on, the tension between Karen and Mrs. Jenkins grew palpable. Each time they crossed paths, whether at the mailbox or during a neighborhood event, Karen's dismissive comments left Mrs. Jenkins feeling small and embarrassed. What was once a friendly greeting turned into awkward silence, with Mrs. Jenkins often looking down at her feet or pretending to be busy with her gardening when Karen approached. The ridicule had a profound effect on Mrs. Jenkins. Although she cherished her cottage, the constant jabs from Karen made her question her home and even herself. She began to worry about what others thought of her property, despite the compliments she received from those who admired its charm. The bright yellow paint that usually brought her joy now felt like a target for judgment. At one neighborhood gathering, as Karen loudly criticized Mrs. Jenkins' garden gnomes to a group of friends, Mrs. Jenkins could hardly hold back tears. She had worked hard to cultivate that garden, pouring love into every flower and herb. Now it felt like all her efforts were overshadowed by Karen's spiteful words. The discomfort lingered in the air, turning what should have been a joyful afternoon into a painful reminder of how cruel words can sting. Despite the hurt, Mrs. Jenkins tried to maintain her dignity and keep her spirits high. She chose to focus on those who appreciated her home for what it represented, a life filled with love, kindness, and community spirit, even if it wasn't recognized by the likes of Karen. Little did they both know that this ongoing tension would lead to an unexpected twist of fate for them both. As the autumn leaves began to fall, Karen announced to her friends that she had decided to sell her grand mansion. Her decision was born from a mix of excitement and ambition. She envisioned a significant profit that would cement her status in the community. With property values as high as they are here, I could easily make a fortune, she boasted, picturing the cash flow that would come from her sale. While Karen dreamed of lavish vacations and designer furniture, she was oblivious to the reality around her. She believed that potential buyers would be lining up to purchase her grand home, lured by its impressive architecture and sprawling gardens. Each day, as she prepped her home for showings, she daydreamed about parties with elite guests in luxurious surroundings. Meanwhile, Mrs. Jenkins' modest cottage seemed only a faint memory, far removed from her world. Karen hired an agent who highlighted every extravagant detail of her home in local listings. "This house is the crown jewel of Maplewood," they declared, emphasizing the supposed prestige it brought. As showings began, Karen held her breath with every visitor who stepped through the door. She was confident that each passing glance and positive comment would bring in higher offers. Yet little did she know that buyers were more interested in affordability than in grandeur, especially in a neighborhood where charm often outweighed ostentation. As days turned into weeks without an offer, Karen's overinflated expectations began to deflate like a balloon losing air. She couldn't help but wonder if the tides were turning on her dreams of easy profit, and what surprises lay ahead for her in this unfolding chapter. Just when Karen was beginning to lose hope in selling her mansion, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. One sunny afternoon, she received a phone call from her real estate agent, who sounded both excited and puzzled. "You won't believe this," the agent said eagerly. "We have an offer, a cash offer, on your house." And it came in surprisingly quick. Karen's heart raced with a mix of disbelief and excitement. Who could possibly want her grand home? After weeks of waiting for interest, the sudden activity left her eager to learn more. As the details emerged, she learned that the mysterious buyer insisted on maintaining anonymity until the deal was finalized. This only fueled Karen's curiosity, and she began to speculate wildly. Was it a wealthy couple looking for a dream home? Perhaps someone famous wanting to escape to Maplewood? As word spread throughout the neighborhood about the quick sale, everyone was abuzz with theories. Neighbors whispered about who could be behind the cash offer, spinning tales of adventurers and high-profile figures swooping in to claim Karen's mansion. However, as the papers were signed and the sale was completed, Karen found herself in disbelief when she finally learned the identity of the buyer. It was none other than Mrs. Jenkins. The very neighbor Karen had ridiculed for years had bought her house. The irony of it all left Karen reeling, feeling as though the universe had played a humorous trick on her. Little did she know that Mrs. Jenkins had plans to transform her former home into a rental property, complete with a neon sign that would soon bring even more surprise and amusement to their neighborhood. After sealing the deal, Mrs. Jenkins couldn't contain her joy. Owning Karen's grand mansion was more than just a personal victory, it was an opportunity to embrace a dream she had long held in her heart. Having spent years in her modest cottage, she envisioned transforming the home into a beautiful rental property for families seeking a welcoming environment filled with community spirit. Her motivation stemmed not only from the appeal of renting out such a prestigious house but also from a desire to prove that homes could be cherished regardless of their size or original status. Mrs. Jenkins had always believed that warmth and kindness were what truly made a house feel like home, and now she had a chance to share that vision with others. With a creative spark, Mrs. Jenkins began planning renovations that would retain the mansion's elegance while adding cozy touches. She imagined bright, inviting colors, family-friendly spaces, and lush gardens where children could play. The highlight of her plan was a vibrant neon sign that would read, "Karen's Former Castle, now $1,500 per month." It would serve as a playful reminder of how perceptions can shift and that every home has its story. As word spread about Mrs. Jenkins' plans, neighbors reacted with both laughter and admiration. They marveled at how she had turned the tables on Karen, turning former mockery into opportunity. With each passing day, Mrs. Jenkins felt more invigorated about this journey. Her goal wasn't just to transform the mansion but also to show that kindness and perseverance could shine brilliantly, even in the face of ridicule. Mrs. Jenkins wasted no time in bringing her vision for Karen's former mansion to life. With a team of skilled contractors and designers, she set to work, determined to transform the grand home into a vibrant rental property that radiated warmth and charm. The first step was refreshing the exterior. Her crew painted the house a soft, inviting shade of lavender with bright white trim, instantly changing its atmosphere. Next, Mrs. Jenkins focused on the garden that had once overwhelmed Karen with its sheer size. She reimagined it as a cozy outdoor space, planting colorful flowers and installing playful decorations, including a charming gazebo adorned with twinkling fairy lights. This new garden would be a gathering place for families who wanted to enjoy nature while creating lasting memories. Inside, Mrs. Jenkins embraced the mansion's elegant features but added her touch of coziness. She replaced drab curtains with cheerful floral patterns and furnished the spacious rooms with comfortable yet stylish furniture in bright colors. Each room was thoughtfully decorated with family-friendly art and whimsical accents to entice potential renters. She even created a fun play area for children, complete with games and books. True to her promise, the highlight of her renovations was the eye-catching neon sign that now hung proudly in front of the house, "Karen's Former Castle, now $1,500 per month." This playful reminder served not only as an advertisement for potential renters but also as a symbol of resilience and transformation. As the finishing touches were completed, excitement filled Mrs. Jenkins' heart. She knew this property would attract families looking for a welcoming home, one that reflected joy rather than judgment, and she eagerly anticipated sharing it with her community. As the final touches were made to the newly renovated property, Mrs. Jenkins couldn't help but smile at her bright neon sign hanging proudly in front of the house, "Karen's Former Castle, now $1,500 per month." The glowing letters were more than just an advertisement, they were a cheeky nod to the irony of the situation. After years of being belittled by Karen, Mrs. Jenkins had turned the tables in a way that was both humorous and satisfying. The sign quickly became a conversation starter in the neighborhood. Families walking by would stop to admire the vibrant colors and chuckle at the cleverness of it all. Neighbors commented on how fitting it was that Karen's once esteemed mansion had been transformed into a welcoming home for families, one that embodied warmth, community, and resilience. For Mrs. Jenkins, the neon sign symbolized not just her triumph over adversity but also a lesson in kindness. She envisioned families moving into Karen's former home, enjoying its spacious living areas and cozy decor while creating their own cherished memories. In her heart, she hoped that this new chapter for the property would change the narrative that had once been dominated by Karen's arrogance. Meanwhile, Karen couldn't ignore the chatter in the neighborhood about her old home. Each mention of that neon sign stung a little deeper, leaving her to reflect on her past actions and the ridicule she had imposed on her neighbor. What had once been a source of pride, her lavish house, had now become a symbol of her own downfall, reminding everyone that true value lies not in appearances but in how we treat others along the way. As word spread about Mrs. Jenkins' new rental property, the Maplewood community buzzed with excitement and laughter. Neighbors gathered, pointing out the brilliant neon sign that had become the talk of the town. "Can you believe it? Karen's former castle," they chuckled, recalling the countless times Karen had belittled Mrs. Jenkins and her quaint cottage. Friends and families strolled past the house, their eyes lighting up at the sight of the sign. "I wonder if she'll still think it drags down property values now," one neighbor joked, eliciting a wave of laughter from the group. Each witty remark brought back memories of Karen's mocking comments at social gatherings, where she had consistently disparaged Mrs. Jenkins' home. The irony was rich and satisfying, and many felt a sense of justice in witnessing this turn of events. Children playing in the nearby park noticed the sign too, giggling as they read it aloud. It became a favorite among the local kids, who delighted in saying, "Karen's former castle," as they imagined what it would be like to live there. The vibrant colors and cheerful atmosphere of the property contrasted sharply with Karen's previous snobbery, creating an inviting space where families could envision themselves making happy memories. Meanwhile, as Karen drove through her old neighborhood, she couldn't help but notice the lively energy surrounding her former home. Seeing neighbors laughing and pointing at her once coveted mansion stirred a mix of emotions within her. What had once been a source of pride was now a playful reminder of her past actions, a lesson on humility that echoed throughout Maplewood as laughter filled the air. In the end, the story of Karen and Mrs. Jenkins serves as a powerful reminder of how one's actions can ripple through life, leading to unexpected consequences. Karen's years of mockery created an environment of disdain, blinding her to the true value of community and kindness. When she finally faced the consequences of her behavior, her grand mansion became a symbol of her arrogance, transformed into a vibrant rental property that nurtured warmth and connection. Mrs. Jenkins, on the other hand, demonstrated that resilience and humility can triumph over mockery. By embracing her vision and transforming Karen's former home into a welcoming space for families, she showcased the importance of treating others with respect and compassion. The neon sign standing outside, a playful testament to irony, reminded everyone that perceptions could shift and that true worth lies in kindness rather than appearances. As laughter echoed throughout Maplewood, it became clear that karma had played its hand beautifully. Neighbors reflected on their own actions and interactions, understanding that they had the power to uplift those around them or, conversely, bring them down with negative words. In this quaint neighborhood, where charm and community spirit thrived, lessons were learned about humility, respect, and the unexpected paths life can take. Karen's journey became an example for all, that pride can lead to downfall but acknowledging our faults can create space for growth and change. Ultimately, this tale highlighted that every home holds stories not just of walls and roofs but of relationships built on kindness and understanding. The journey of Karen and Mrs. Jenkins serves as a powerful lesson in the importance of respect for others, regardless of their home or possessions. In a world often driven by appearances, it's easy to forget that true value lies not in the size of one's house or the status it represents but in the kindness and compassion we extend to one another. As Karen faced the consequences of her past behavior, she learned that mockery creates barriers rather than connections. Meanwhile, Mrs. Jenkins' transformation of Karen's former mansion into a welcoming rental property highlighted the beauty of embracing different lifestyles and fostering community spirit. The vibrant garden and playful decor became symbols of acceptance and warmth, inviting families to create memories without judgment. The neon sign proclaiming, "Karen's former castle," was a light-hearted reminder to everyone that humility is essential in our interactions. It encouraged neighbors to reflect on their own behavior and consider how they treat those around them. In Maplewood, laughter now replaced disdain, and friendships blossomed as people realized the importance of uplifting rather than belittling one another. Ultimately, this story encourages a shift toward more accepting attitudes. By celebrating diversity in homes and lifestyles, we cultivate a community where everyone feels valued. Whether a grand mansion or a cozy cottage, every home holds stories shaped by the love and respect shared within its walls. As we move forward, let us remember that kindness can redefine our perceptions and build stronger connections among us all.